All right, guys, welcome to the channel of Live Life in Maine. In this episode, we're going to do a year in review of the entire state of the real estate market. What I've done, somebody who's lived here almost his whole life and was born and raised here, is when you look at Maine as a whole, it's about the same size as the other 5 New England states combined. So you really can't say what the average price in Maine is because it does very much differ between what region you live in or what region you're moving to. So what I do is I take the state and I divide it up into 5 sections. You got northern Maine, which is pretty much where hunting and fishing and the cabins are and the potato fields are and the logging industry is. You got central Maine, which is where the capital is, Augusta. You got Augusta, Lewiston, Auburn, Bangor, and we'll even throw in like Waterville and Skowhegan. I kind of consider that central Maine. You got southern Maine, which if you look at the state of Maine on a map, and if you go from Brunswick, which is kind of the big first city going up the coast, we call that down east, and you go cut it right across. Anything south of that, anything heading down, I call that southern Maine. So that includes the Portland market, which is Maine's largest city. And then you got western Maine, which is where the skiers are, the mountains are. And then you got down east Maine, which is the fishing industry. A lot of the shots you see on cameras of the lighthouses and all the rocky coasts, that's down east Maine. So really, there are 5 really separate sections. But to understand what section might work for you in your budget if you're looking to move here, you really got to break those down. So what I did, guys, is I compiled all the data for the entire year. Now, it's only a couple of days after Christmas. We actually got 2 closing days left. So this data is going to be a little bit off, but not by much. I don't expect a lot to happen over the next couple of days. There is a couple of pending I know of personally because I'm involved in them, a couple of real estate deals that are hopefully going to close by Friday. But for the most part, these are the numbers. If you find this of interest and you find this of value, then guys, get back, grab a pen and paper, grab some hot chocolate or your favorite beverage because we're going to hit after that right now. Guys, welcome to the channel. This is Scott Tebow. I'm a broker with eXp Realty, and if you want to know everything there is to know about living in Maine, then I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Tap that bell to be the first to be notified when I drop new content. Guys, here in Maine, it's not a secret anymore. There are a lot of people moving here, and there's really 2 primary reasons why there's a lot of people moving here. I talk about it in my other videos. But one is safety. Maine is always one of the top 2 safest states in the country ranked. It goes between Maine, Vermont, sometimes New Hampshire. Interestingly enough, if it isn't Maine, it's Vermont. And if it isn't Maine or Vermont, it's New Hampshire. So those 3 kind of share the top 3 spots. But safety and definitely quality of life, the work-life balance. We call that now work-life integration, but the work-life balance being one with outdoors and exploring the beautiful countryside of Maine and all that it has to offer. So if you're looking to move here in 9 days, 90 days, 9 months, 9 years, and you're looking to make an informed decision on what the real estate market is in Maine in a whole, then this episode is going to be for you. I encourage you to, again, subscribe to this channel and get more content as I drop it on pretty much on a weekly basis. Guys, my team and I, we get a lot of calls, a lot of texts, and a lot of emails on a weekly basis, wanting to know what Maine is like, wanting to know what it's going to take to move to Maine, wanting to know the real estate market in Maine. We have people that are looking for second homes in Maine. We have people that are looking to move here from Maine, from places like, believe it or not, Florida, from Texas, from California, from even Massachusetts or New York or Virginia or Montana. I'm just going off some of the places that I've recognized for other people have come from that I've helped. Ohio, New Mexico, Nevada. I mean, I don't know, probably every state there is, but obviously Tennessee, obviously I don't know them all. I haven't helped every person from every state that's been moving here. There's other realtors obviously in the state, but I like to think that I'm going to be the go-to realtor here on YouTube, and I'll help anybody who's looking to move here, whether it's where I'm presently working, which is primarily southern Maine. I'll go all the way up to Augusta. But the beauty of the realty company that I'm brokered with, which is EXP, we're a worldwide largest real estate company in the world, and it's one platform, unlike some of the other real estate agencies like Keller Williams, which is an agency and you got to deal with different people in different places. That's not like it is here at EXP. We have one platform globally. We are a global provider and actually traded on the New York Stock Exchange. But I digress. You're joining this video because you want to know about the market statistics. So I got my cheat sheets here. Again, this is through, what's today? December 27th. So like I said, there's 3 days left. But I'm going to just give you the median average price of a house in Maine as a whole state. Now, this number is going to be skewed a little bit, guys, because if you look this number up, this is what you're going to get. I actually did all the calculations per county and then said what the median average is when I took all those counties. This number is going to be skewed a little bit because obviously the prices in southern Maine are higher than the prices in northern Maine. So really, if you go from the price perspective, I'm going to say northern Maine is the cheapest, southern Maine is the most expensive. Then you got a toss up between central Maine and down east, which would be, the next on the pay in terms of highest price of houses or the most costly prices of houses. And then you got western Maine, which is kind of third. So if I was to rank them, I would say northern Maine's the cheapest or the least expensive, southern Maine's the most expensive, down east Maine and kind of central Maine's kind of tied in the middle, and then Farmington, Maine, not Farmington, Maine, but western Maine. Farmington's in western Maine. Western Maine is going to be above northern Maine, but less than southern Maine, Kennebec County in terms of central Maine and down east Maine. So looking at these statistics, like I said, $364,900 is the median sale price in 2023 for the whole state. And there were actually 30,498 houses that came on the market, or listings that came on the market in 2023 throughout the whole state. Now, the vast majority of those listings were obviously already existing houses. There were some that were being built, but on average, 30,498 homes were put up for sale. Again, this report is only for residential housing, by the way, guys, was put up for sale in 2023. Of that 30,498 houses that were put up for sale, 11,555 of them have sold. 11,676 of them are under contract, which means they're still in escrow. They haven't closed yet. I don't think they're all going to close in the next 2 days, but I'm sure some of them will. So that total is 23,231. So the question is, what's going on with the other? Geez, if I add up those two numbers, that's subtract 30. What's going on with about the other 7,000 homes? Well, guys, there's houses that come on the market every day. So in northern Maine, they last longer than they do in southern Maine. So there's still a bunch of houses. There's about 7,000 houses throughout the whole state that aren't under contract or hasn't sold. They could have expired also. So I didn't pull that statistic of how many houses expired, but I know the expired rate in Maine is very low. What I mean by the expired rate is somebody puts their house on the market and it doesn't sell and they take it off. That's called an expired, and they don't put it back on the market. That's an expired listing. You have a lot of states that have higher expired listings, like Florida and Nevada, and California, where people just don't get their houses sold. Maine, that's not the case. It's very low. I'm going to say it's less than 0.5%. But again, those are the total amount of houses that were listed in Maine in 2023, total amount that's sold, and the total amount that's under contract. Now, in general, there's about 573,618 residents, single-family homes in the state, which makes up about a population of 1.4 million. So where are the other little less than a million? They're either living, they're kids, or they're living in apartments, or they're living in community homes, something like that. They're not living in single-family homes. But on average, if you take the total amount of houses that are available and you divide that by, or you take the total amount of houses that are listed versus the total amount of houses that are available, about 5.32% of the market comes of the houses that are available come on the market every year. Now, you think that's kind of low. I think it is a little low, 5.32%, especially with the amount of people that are looking to move to Maine. But again, in general, we're a pretty small state in terms of population. Again, 1.4 million, kind of like why we have the quality of life. We're not a big metropolitan area. We don't have tons of people here. We don't have tons of traffic. So I think 5.32% is kind of low. That being said, the higher numbers you get, obviously, the more people you get. So be careful what you wish for. But let me start with northern Maine, and on your screen you're going to see what I did was I highlighted each county that I considered, the different sections. So in northern Maine, you got Aroostook County in kind of most of the northern part, maybe halfway up of Piscataquis County, as I have pronounced these countries too, not counties, not countries, but counties. You'll understand how they're pronounced because some of them, most of them are made after Indian names, but you got Aroostook and you got Piscataquis. Now, Aroostook County is the largest county in Maine. It's pretty much where all the potatoes come from. There's a lot of hunting, there's a lot of fishing, and there's a lot of logging. The two industries in northern Maine really are the potato industry and the lumber industry, forestry industry. So that's kind of what northern Maine is made of. Obviously, I go up there every year just to go salmon fishing in May. It's awesome. But there's all kinds of hunting, fishing, cabins, tours. That's kind of the life in northern Maine. Very woody, a lot of rivers, a lot of lakes, a lot of streams, a lot of bugs. But northern Maine is kind of life. So it won't surprise you when I go through these numbers. You'll start to kind of get the trend here. But the median list price in northern Maine in 2023 for a home was $183,495. Interestingly enough, the median pending price was $168,700. So why is there a difference? Well, there's a difference between people who are putting their houses on the market for $183,495 wasn't getting any action. So they had to lower their prices. You're seeing a lot, not just in Maine, but across the country. They call them price improvements. Some people are real price reductions, new price, whatever. But they've had to lower their prices. So they lowered their prices from $183,495 to $168,700. Guys, that's about a $15,000 price drop. And then they go into contract, and then they sell for $166,614. So the average sale price of a home in northern Maine in 2023 was $166,614. You'll see this on your screen on this document that I've put up there. So if you look at those numbers, about 90.8% of what the house originally listed for sold. If you look at the state, the county more in northern Maine, there were 3,390 total listings. Only 932 of them sold, just about the same. A little bit more are still under contract. So those two numbers make up about almost 1,900. The average days on market. What does days on market mean? Again, if you're a novice to this industry, days on market is when you put it on the market to sell to when it goes under contract, which essentially it's taken off the market. It doesn't mean that it's sold. It just means that the seller is not accepting any more offers. They are under contract with a house, with a buyer, and they've taken it off the market. So that's what days on market means, was 36. So it took 36 days on average to put a house on the market and for it to go into contract for a buyer willing to offer the price, which is different from the months of inventory. So the months of inventory really is how much property, how many houses do you have on the market versus how many have been taken off the market. You take those two numbers, you divide one into the other, and you'll see that the months of inventory, or the absorption rate in northern Maine, is 2.61 months, about 9 weeks. So in general, if a house priced right in northern Maine was put on the market today, it'd be gone in about 9 weeks from now. That's in general. That's how you get those numbers, the absorption rate. That's northern Maine, guys. That's Aroostook and Piscataquis counties. Now, as I said, I'm going right down the center. I'm going northern Maine, central Maine, southern Maine, and then the wings, western Maine and down East Maine. Now let's go to central Maine. which you're coming down the map and you see on your screen the counties that I've highlighted in red show central Maine. And those counties are Penobscot, Somerset, Kennebec, and Androscoggin counties. Now, again, guys, these are totally my thought process. This is totally where I'm coming from. Having been a realtor in Maine since 2013, having traveled all over the country, all over the state, having lived here almost my entire life except for 6 to 8 years I was gone. Actually, it was over 8 because I was in the military, but I came home and leave a little bit. But having outside of that time away, I've been here my whole life. So that's to me central Maine. Now, some people are going to argue Maine is really 2 states. Maine is Maine, and then Maine is northern Massachusetts. And if you're way up in the county, up in Aroostook County, people are going to think southern Maine is anything Augusta south. Obviously, us southern Mainers, we think anything central Maine is above Brunswick or above Freeport, north. So depends on who you talk to. But in general, I think most people agree the 4 counties that I listed, central Maine, which is Penobscot, Somerset, Kennebec, and Androscoggin, which again will show up on your screen. To me, that makes up central Maine. And in central Maine, you got Bangor, which is the 2nd largest city in the state. You got Augusta, which is the capital city in the state. You got Waterville, which is a decent-sized city as Maine goes. It's probably in the top 10. I don't think it's the largest. It's not the largest in central Maine because Bangor is. And then if you go a little bit west, it gets a little less populated, but you got Skowhegan, which is really in Somerset County, which is kind of why I threw that in. And you got Jackman. You get some of those counties as you head up 201 as you're going to drive into Quebec as an example. But you'll see a pretty big price jump from northern Maine to central Maine. So if you come down the state a little bit, coming out of northern Maine, coming out of the county, and you're going to look at buying in central Maine, which is above, again, southern Maine, obviously. The median list price in central Maine, I was surprised by these facts. I was surprised they were high. I thought they were a little lower, but the median list price. Now, what's median mean, guys? I'm sure you probably know this, but just to educate you, because I don't know about you, but I gotta have things explained to me like I'm a 6th grader. You know, the TV show, Are You Smarter Than the 6th Grader? Sometimes I'm not, but you gotta have things explained to me like a 6th grader, so that's how I'll articulate it back to you. Median pricing is you throw out the high and you throw out the low and you crunch all the numbers together and you take the average, and that's the median price. List price in the state. In central Maine, the median list price was $282,382. Pretty cool. A little higher than I thought it would be. But then you get into the price reductions, you get into the price improvements, and the prices went from $382,382 down to $282,382 down to $262,736. So guys, that's a little less than a $20,000 drop. So I think what you're starting to see here, and we'll keep on going through these numbers, is you had a lot of hangover from the 21, 22 real estate market where things were just flying off the shelf. And you have real estate agents and sellers thinking that those prices are still here because there is a shortage. But the reality is the buyer is much more aware. Not only that, but interest rates drove the cost of a house up. Not what a house was worth, but the cost to acquire a house. Again, at an 8% interest rate, it's going to cost you like $1,400 more a month to buy that same house that you would, let's say a $400,000 house that you would have bought in 2021, early 2022, because the interest rates just went up astronomically, in my opinion. But pretty big drop, almost 20 grand. And the sold price, so when you got that median sale price, that median list pending price down to $262,736, you can see that it sold about for that, $262,036, a $700 difference. Why is there a difference, guys? Well, obviously, when you go into contract, you have inspections, you have appraisals, you have some give and take from the buyers and the sellers, especially in more and more in Maine, as you're seeing the market not really come down a ton, but you're seeing buyers are a little bit more skittish because of the interest rates, and the sellers are a little bit more skittish because where they used to be able to put a house on the market and be gone in a day, it's taking a little bit longer. So in that case, there's a little bit more give and take from the seller's perspective. So the percentage of list price, in other words, the percentage of what the broker put the house on the market initially and what they sold it for was 93% less, or 93% total, 7% less. So again, a little leftover, little hangover from the 2021, 22, early 2022 pricing, where you could put a house on the market and get $50,000 over ask with cash, no contingencies. That market is pretty much gone. There's still some people in kind of luxury markets that are still out there, but in general, that's not the market anymore. Total listings in Central Maine. Again, you're making up 4 pretty big counties. 7,872 total houses came on the market in 2023 in Central Maine. 3,028 of them sold. 3,043 of them are still under contract. And the average days on market was 14 again when it went on the to be sold to when it went under contract. And the months of inventory or the absorption rate is 1.52. So again, you can follow this in some of my other videos, guys, but absorption rate, a balanced absorption rate market is 5 to 6 months. In other words, if you had 5 to 6 months of inventory on the market, you'd have a balanced market. You'd have sellers and buyers kind of like this. Right now, it's still a seller's market. It's going to continue that way for a while because there's just not enough houses. And this isn't just in Maine, although it's exacerbated in Maine. It's across the country, but it's really a seller's market first. It's starting to come back in 21, right out of the pandemic. And 22, it was like this, and it's starting to shift a little bit, but it's not a balanced market, and that's even in northern Maine where the inventory was 2.61 days, months of inventory. So, but if you look at the total sold and total pending, that adds up to about 6,000. What's that? 71 out of 7,872. So about 1,000 houses less. Again, there's still houses on the market that are under contract, or there could have been some houses that have dropped off the market. Either the seller decided not to sell it, they gave it away, or they gave it to an inheritance to a family member, or it could have been on the market, got no bites, and they took it off the market and decided to stay there. But the number's pretty low in terms of expired, as I said earlier. So that's Central Maine in general, guys. Pretty cool place to live in Central Maine. I don't want to live there, but I know a lot of people love Central Maine. I like more the coast, and I like more of the things to do, and I like more hustle and bustle. Not a ton, in general. Maine doesn't have a lot of hustle and bustle, but Southern Maine is definitely more of it's where 40% of the population lives, so it's definitely, there's more going on. But that's Central Maine. Guys, if you have any questions, any comments, or whatever, just drop me a line, send me a text, like this video, book a Zoom call. We can talk about any of these numbers. We can talk about your plan, what you're trying to do. I actually get a call tonight at 7 o'clock from somebody from Virginia that's looking to move up here, and we're going to have some statistics and talk about some things about what it's going to take. All right, let's go to the Dalai Lama of real estate in Maine. Let's go to Southern Maine, which is kind of where the prices are, where the houses are, where the market is in terms of pricing, higher pricing. Southern Maine makes up, in my opinion, 2 counties, York, Cumberland, and Sagadahoc. Sagadahoc. Say that 3 times. Sagadahoc. I used to say Sagadahoc, but it's Sagadahoc if you really pronounce it properly. That's kind of coming right into the state from New Hampshire. You got York County, you got Cumberland County, and then you start to turn to the right, Sagadahoc, and then you get into down east. But those are kind of, to me, the southern most counties in Maine. Some people are going to argue that you could throw Androscoggin because it does dip down in there, or you could throw Oxford County because it does dip down into there on the west side. But to me, those are the 3 southernmost counties in Maine. Median list price in Southern Maine in 2023 was $584,791. That's over $300,000 more than Central Maine, and over $400,000 more than Northern Maine. But that being said, the median pending price, that means when it went under contract, was $481,709. Again, big hangover in Southern Maine. That's over $100,000 difference in price from when the house initially went on the market to when it went under contract. a pretty big drop, guys. So again, a lot of hangover in southern Maine. Very desirable place to live. Still trying to get those high numbers. Just as wasn't as many buyers. Obviously, interest rates had to do with that. But it dropped the median pending price 481,709. Now, interestingly enough, the median sold price went back up almost $14,000. And why is that? How is it that a price goes up after it's the median pending? And that is because what you have is when somebody takes the house off the market, there's competitive bidding. There's a competitive market out there. So even though it was listed at 584 and it went pending at 481, some buyers, so pending means before it went under the contract, the price got dropped to 481. Some buyers then get in a competitive situation with other buyers because 481 was kind of like a really good sweet spot, and they offered more than the 481. In this case, 495, 539, which is the median sold. So you get into the competitive situation. What you really should see here is the median list price of 584. The median sold price and the median pending price should be right around 495, 359, kind of like what it is in northern Maine and central Maine. But it got dropped so low because of, the broker or the seller was saying, no, just drop it because I want to sell it. You got a bidding war, you got a frenzy. And I do know a lot of realtors that do that. They come in with a lowball price. They test the market out for a little bit, see if they get any bites, and then they go to the seller and they say, listen, based upon this, we're not going to, let's create a competitive bidding war, and we're fishing now. We're going to get a bunch of bites at this price. And exactly that's kind of what's happened. You're getting a bunch of bites, and it's driving the price back up, not as high as it was. So I think there needs to be a little bit of blend from my peers out there. I'm not saying I'm the God's gift of real estate, guys, but I really don't believe in that strategy. I believe if you offer a house at the competitive market analysis, it can be a little bit higher. There's got to be some intangible reasons why. You're going to get a lot of offers. I don't believe in just trying to get a listing and going to the seller, and the seller wants $600,000 for a house, let's say, and the house isn't worth $600,000. It's hard to tell a seller that. You have to give them data. It's not my opinion. These are all data. These are what can I sell the house for? What's the competitive market analysis saying? What's the conditions in the market? What's the interest rates? All that stuff. What's the job? What's the neighborhood? All that stuff to really narrow down a price or what's a good price. And then you kind of stick with that price. I've only once had to reduce my price on a house that I've listed. Every other house that I've sold, and there's been a lot of them, guys, they all went for over ask. So it's really important to manage expectations. If you're a seller out there, I know you want top dollar. Believe me, as a broker, we want you to help you get top dollar as well, but it has to be realistic. So here's a good example in southern Maine, how median average list price of 584 was not realistic. Really was around 495, so they're about $90,000 higher than it should have been, but still pretty high compared to northern Maine and central Maine. But if you look at that percentage of lists, 85% sold versus median lists, that means that houses are selling for 15% less in general than they originally listed for in 2023. I think people are becoming wiser to the fact prices are coming in line more. There is still a very low inventory in Maine, based upon the number of people that are moving here. I think I spoke about this in another video. I attended a National Board of Realtors Association meeting a few months ago, and they predicted 7,000 houses needed to be built, and we still wouldn't catch the market because there's such a demand to living in Maine. Total listings, guys, in York, Cumberland, and Saginaw counties was 10,265. Total sold was 4,837. Total pending 4,904. So if you add those two up, you're at 9,500 houses out of 10,265 between three counties, between the most populous in the state in terms of about 40%. Not a lot of houses left over for that 40% of the population, which makes up about, what's 40% of 101.4 million, 600 and some odd thousand. Not a lot of houses left over. Hence the days on market, 8 days. Put a house on put a house on market, it's taken off the market in 8 days, which has made brokers have to react pretty fast because they put the house on the market at 584, 791. Within a few days, they're going to know if this is a good price or not, and then they're going to drop it if the seller agrees. And this appears to still be the case. They probably dropped it a little bit too far. But again, went on the market, went under contract, went pending in 8 days, and the months of inventory is 1.04. So again, what does that mean? That means if I was to put a house on the market today, it'd be gone by the end of January. When I say gone, not just under contract, sold, keys given to the new buyer, and they're moving in. Pretty competitive market in Southern Maine. Lots of reasons why that is. And it's not impossible to buy a house here. You just got to know what you're doing, and you got to have a good strategy. And that's why, guys, I'm giving you this YouTube video because I hope if you want to know more, you can give me a call. We can talk about how we do that. Let's look at Down East Maine. So what is Down East Maine? So I don't know if you've ever watched any of the videos from Bob Marley. He says wicked hard and, you know, that kind of accent of Maine. I kind of still have a little bit in it, that accent in me now, but not as much. But Down East Maine is when you're coming up the state, coming into York County, you got Portland, Cumberland County, and you start going to the right. You start kind of going up the coast to the right. You got Bar Harbor, you got Booth Bay Harbor, you got all those harbors and all those little inlets and channels. If you look at a map and you're looking at Maine and you look to the right, coming up that Atlantic coast in the Atlantic, you're going to see all those little islands and stuff. God, there's like 4,000 some odd islands, I think, off the coast of Maine. All these little inlets and stuff. That's Down East Maine. That's the fishing industry of Maine. That's where a lot of tourists hang out in Maine. That is where you're going to see a lot of pictures on calendars and online of Down East Maine, the rocky coasters, the lobsters, the lobstermen, the lobster traps, the lobster boats. That's Down East Maine. And to me, Down East Maine kind of starts right at Brunswick. So if you're looking at a map, Brunswick, and it really goes up past a little bit past Bar Harbor, just a little bit past Bar Harbor. And then that's kind of the end of Down East Maine. And then you get into Washington County, which is the poorest county in the state of Maine. There's not a lot going on in Washington County as you're exiting going into Canada. You got Lubec, and that's easternmost tip in the United States there off Washington County. And you got some pretty cool places to visit. But industry and pricing and all that's pretty low. It's a kind of a little, it's coming around. It's getting better, but it's still kind of a depressed area. But that's Washington County. But I kind of left that off from Down East Maine, if you will. So if I look at Down East Maine, you notice that you don't see Washington County on your screen. To me, Down East Maine makes up Lincoln, Knox, Waldo, and Hancock counties. And if you look at the median list price of those counties in Down East Maine, $485,455. Everybody, there's a lot of people that like living in Down East Maine. They like that New Englander vibe. They like that coast. They like that rocky coast. They like those views. They like driving along those cliffs. 485,455. Again, not as high as Southern Maine, but higher than Central Maine and Northern Maine. That's why I said when they opened up this video, you know, you got kind of Southern Maine's the highest, Northern Maine's the lowest, and then in the middle, and you really got Southern Maine, Down East Maine, Central and Western Maine, and then you got Northern Maine down here, Western Maine and Northern Maine. But Down East Maine, median list price $485,455. Medium pending price, so they had to drop it, you know, a little bit, $401,932. Median sold price. So you see where they start. If you look at these trends and you look at these charts, guys, if you go back and forth on this video, you'll see that the median sold and the median pending is right in line, except for Southern Maine, where they dropped it too low and they got a lot more bidding. But median sold for $396,000, $465,000. That's about a $5,000, a little bit more difference between what it was pending and what it sold for. Percentage of lists, again, started way high. Percentage of lists, 82%, which means they overpriced it in the beginning by about 18%. I don't know. We have different opinions on that. I think if I was to overprice a house by 18%, I kept on doing that, I wouldn't be in business very long, because the longer the house sits on the market, the perception is it becomes stagnant. It becomes, what's wrong with this house? Why isn't anybody buying it? And it starts turning people away. But that's me. There's still a huge housing demand in the state of Maine, so it could also be that buyers are just waiting till the price comes down, because the interest rates are so high. Now they are starting to come down. So I expect when I do this report next year for the 2024, you're going to see that percentage of lists be a lot closer, and the days on market and the months of inventory actually, unfortunately, be less, because as interest rates are starting to come down now, we're predicting that, I'm going to say, by at least this time next year, but probably earlier in 2024, probably third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter, you'll see interest rates around 6%. The Feds are predicting like a quarter of a point. They're going to do it 6 or 7 times. We'll see how the election goes and whatever happens in this crazy world we live in. But I'm going to see this time next year, I'm going to take this video and save it as a favorite and see if I'm right or wrong. I see interest rates somewhere between 6 to 6.25 this time next year, which will really be kind of a buyer's market. You're not going to see the 3% interest rates again for a while. Nobody was making money at those rates. And this county has to make money, because right now we're living off debt. If you read the statistics, I think there's $1 trillion in credit card debt. Now, I don't have any credit card debt. That's just how I live. But $1 trillion in credit card debt's a lot of debt, especially when we didn't have hardly any credit card debt prior to the pandemic. But people were giving all this free money, going out and spending, and realizing, hey, Uncle Sam's not going to keep us giving us money. So here we are. Again, I digress. Total listings, 5,764 listings was in Down East Maine in 2023. 1,767 of them sold. 1,776 of them are under contract. That's 34, about 3,500 of the 5,700. So that's quite a drop. There's about 2,200 houses that either came off the market, are not under contract yet, or maybe under contract now. But I just ran this report today, so they only got 2 or 3 days left. So they either came on the market, they're still on the market, not on the contract, probably priced too high. They expired, or again, somebody said, you know what, I'm just going to will this to their family member. Days on market, 23. Again, house starts, put on the market, 23 days, it's under contract. And then months of inventory, absorption rate, 2.18. Again, put a house on the market, it's going to be gone in about 60 days, 60 to 70 days in Down East Maine. That's buyers moved in, they got the keys, and good to go. So that's Down East Maine. All right, let's look at northern Maine. Let's look at western Maine. If you look at western Maine makes up 2 counties, and I've highlighted this on the screen, Franklin and Oxford. So those are kind of the 2 westernmost counties in Maine where people live. If you go up further, you got Somerset, and people are like, well, why isn't Somerset in that? Well, as you get into Somerset and obviously Tupperoosa, there's a lot of woods. You got the Allagash, you got a lot of inhabitable places up there. So I don't really include kind of Somerset, kind of, which is, as you go further up some into Somerset County. I don't really include Somerset County. I really don't include the western part of Aroostook, because you go to west and you're into the great northern woods. So really, when I look at western Maine, I really look at Franklin and Oxford counties. Those are the 2 counties that you can that people live in western Maine. You got Farmington, which is probably the largest city in those counties, which is in Franklin County. You know, University of Farmington up there, and then in Oxford, you don't got a lot of big cities. You got Norway. You got what else is up there? There's a bunch of them. You got the Oxford Casino up there, which is not a big casino, guys, small, but those are kind of 2 counties up there in western Maine. Been there lots of times. Love them both. Median list price in western Maine, $330,009. This is the skiing area. This is where people go skiing and sliding and sledding and snowmobiling and all that. You got the median list price of $3,009, $330,009. Now, interesting enough, the brokers up there doing a pretty good job because the median pending price 300,586 and the median sold price 301,882, right along with kind of the median pending price. 91% of the list price, original list price, was sold, or essentially the price was reduced 9%, which isn't a ton. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good number. Total listings in Western Maine was 3,207. Total sold was 991. Total pending 1,006. Interesting. There's more houses that haven't sold that are under contract that did sell in 2023. Average days on market 3 weeks, 21 days. In the months of inventory 2.07. Again, kind of the same as down East Maine, Western Maine, down East Maine, kind of the wings. A lot of people still like living there. A lot of people love, getting out of, even though we have 40% of the population in Southern Maine, and you'll hear me talk about Southern Maine a lot because it has so much to offer. I know a lot of people who love living in all parts of the state, whether it's Western Maine, down East Maine, Central Maine, even in Northern Maine. I have a couple of friends that love Northern Maine. I have a friend of my brother-in-law's friend. They served together in the police force. He's got a cabin up in Portage. That's why we go fishing up there. But I mean, it's beautiful up there. I couldn't live up there year round because I'd go stir crazy unless I was totally retired. Then I'd be fishing, hunting, and napping all the time. But I mean, realistically, it sounds like paradise. But you do that every day of the week, I'm sure you're gonna get bored of it. But that's kind of Western Maine. So guys, in a nutshell, take this video, go back and forth on it. I'll link a bunch of stuff too in terms of the counties. I'll give all this data on the video. And if you're looking to make a move here, guys, again, it doesn't matter to me if it's in 9 days, 9 weeks, 90 days. If it's 9 years, well, then you're probably not really looking to make a move. You're just thinking about it in the back of your brain maybe someday. But that's what we do, guys. We help a lot of people. We've helped a lot of people move here to Maine. We've actually helped a lot of people buy second homes here in Maine. We've helped a lot of snowbirds, if you will, from Florida have a home in the summertime here and then go back to Florida in the wintertime here, and vice versa. We've helped people buy homes in Florida in the wintertime here and then keep their homes here in the southern time. So that's summertime. That's the beauty of eXp Realty. We're one company globally, so I have peers and relationships and friends all across the globe. We're one big company. I know I'm talking a lot about eXp, but really it's about how do we help you the best. You don't have to deal with different brokerages. You don't have to deal with different brokers. You you kind of get settled with one. You build a relationship with one. Hopefully he or she will serve you well and can help you anywhere. A lot of brokers can't do that because they're only they can only work in their general vicinity. But that's not like me or other people on my team here at eXp Realty. So I hope this information was helpful, guys. If you have any questions, any comments, any thoughts, send me an email, text me, book a Zoom call with me, or just send me an email and say, let's have a conversation. And I can help you make that smooth move to Maine. I hope this information was helpful, guys. Like I said, today's December 27th. I'm going to try to get this all up before the end of the week. And that'll give you the kind of year in review real estate market from Maine in general. Again, if you have any questions, send them along. I hope you all have a safe and festive new year. My wife just had surgery back on Thursday, so I'm kind of housebound for another probably till early next week where I can finally get out. But we're gonna have a pretty low key New Year's Eve. A few friends over, nothing too crazy. And of course, my girls, my kids, they're all grown up except for our 18-year-old. But he's, he'll figure it out. He'll be at home. But all the other kids are out and about doing what you do when you're 20, 22, 23 years old. So anyways, guys, hope this was helpful. Again, Scott Tebow, broker at eXp Realty. Give me a call, shoot me some texts, and be safe in as we invite 2024 in. All right, guys, take care.